for me, the best part of the drinking was the next morning, because I'd start again. So she'd be in bed, this girl, you know, I'd met her that evening before, and she's in bed and I'm watching the TV and I'm on my third beer chang or my second beer chang or whatever, and I'd wake her up, you know, hello. And I sat her down and said, what's the matter, Nin? Why have you gone like this? And she burst into tears and said, I just found out I'm HIV positive. And I've been sleeping with her for the best part of 3 months, you know, never wore any protection, ever.
What's the story, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Pete here from Thairish Times. My guest today, he doesn't need any introduction, but just in case you're brand new to the channel, his name is Paul Wallis. He's from England. He spent 40 years in Thailand and he's lived a life most people just have never lived. 99% of people have never lived. And today he's going to talk about a number of different topics, but we're going to focus on first a bit of the dark side of his time in Thailand. So he went through a 7-8 year period. He calls it a rampage through Thailand's bar scene. He's going to talk about that today. He's going to talk about as well sleeping with a lady for 3 months, and then she turned around and tells him that she's HIV positive. He's also going to address the comments about not having teeth. So for the first time, Paul's going to talk about it. He's never spoke about it on camera before, but there are a lot of comments coming in about it, and Paul wants to talk about it. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get into a deep dive into Paul's past, life after his parents' divorce, his decision to leave England and have a life of travel and adventure rather than work 45 years, wait for his pension and then maybe travel. So he's going to talk about that. We've got a lot to cover in the video, folks. Hope you enjoy it. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about it. Let's get straight into the video. Cheers. Right, we're back on. We're back on, baby.
So you want me to recall some of my memories of my single life in Bangkok? I spent about 7 or 8 years, I would say, doing what you would call the girly scene, and that kind of progressed, you know.
Let's get in, let's jump into that. So kind of take us back to the very start of that, you know. You're in Thailand, you must have been in Thailand for a number of years before you went to Bangkok or got into the bar scene, is that right?
I went to Pattaya first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, straight to Pattaya. And I'd been there, what, 20 minutes, I suppose. I checked into my hotel, went to a bar, fell in love with this girl and said how much for short time. She said 300 baht. And we're walking back to the hotel holding hands, and I see another girl walking towards me, and I think, oh shit, why didn't I just wait a while, you know? She's lovely. And then I thought, well, no, I'm going to be here for a while. So I kind of was like a kid in a chocolate factory.
You went wild, yeah?
Yeah. Got money in your pocket, you know, you're a young guy and there's all these beautiful women and they'll sleep with you for a price. And sure, yeah, I was really into it. I thought it was great fun.
Could you party for days on end? What was your style like? What way were you doing it?
Well, it didn't take long before I ended up living in an apartment building where lots of these girls lived as well. So I never really would spend much time going into a bar where I didn't know any of the girls. You know, I used to borrow money off these girls and I'd pay them back at the end of the month and things like that. And so I could go to one of those girls, go to where she works and say, hey, you know, can I pay you at the end of the month? Yeah, no problem. And we'd go back, you know. So and there is a progression in it, you know. I'd been doing that about 18 months, and one day I'm in some bar in Soy Cowboy. That was my favourite, Soy Cowboy. Didn't like Nana. I don't know why. I just felt something hostile about it. And I'm in this bar and there's this old American guy there, and he's quite a bit drunk, you know, and we're sitting there and he says to me, asking about how long I'd been there and all that. He says, you want me to give you a tip with the girls? I said, yeah, okay. He said, if you want a girl for the night, he said, don't even come out until 1:30 a.m. And every bar you go into in Soy Cowboy or Nana or wherever else they might be in Pattaya, she's only 30 minutes from finishing her work and sleeping in a room with 8 other girls with no mosquito net and just a fan. She's 30 minutes from that. So you find one you like, you sit down, you buy her a drink, you say, hey, okay, you know, what time do you finish work? She goes, 20 minutes, you say, okay. how about we go up and have a good time, and then I'll give you the cab fare on the way home in the morning. I'll look after you, we'll eat good food, we'll drink, have some fun. Yeah, okay. And it worked. It worked. So there you go, guys. there's one way. And then I graduated from that. And I used to go to snooker halls. I'd go there about 9 o'clock in the evening on my own. And of course, all the snooker halls have marker girls, girls that put the balls out and do all that. And they're all, nice girls. And so I'd go in there on my own and say, I'm here to practice. And I'd pick one of the markies. Can you be my markie? Yeah. So I'd get to play snooker with her, buy her a couple of drinks, and we'd end up leaving when her shift ended. And everybody's happy. So I graduated, I think you do. If you're into that kind of scene, it's like anything, isn't it? The more you do it, the more you find out. And I was very lucky with the girls. I would always pick the girl that was into a good time. They got over the shyness of it, but they didn't really care too much, except they wanted to have a good time and they wanted to be treated right. And I seemed to have a knack for finding those girls.
Well, you were kind of a friendly guy, and
and I was very respectful to them. I realise, as Steve Ross would say, I realise it's a transaction. I'm renting you for a while, and if I want you to be nice to me, I have to be nice to you. So I would respect them.
Did you ask them stories about their lives?
Yep. Yeah, most of the time, when I was a drinker, for me, the best part of the drinking was the next morning, because I'd start again. So she'd be in bed, this girl, I'd met her that evening before, and she's in bed, and I'm watching the TV, and I'm on my third beer chang, or my second beer chang, or whatever, and I'd wake her up, hello. And I go, no, I don't want sex, I want to ask you some questions. She'd go and have a shower and start drinking with me, and then she'd tell me all about what happened, how she got into the business, all about her family, and I was genuinely interested in it, because I already knew that had I been born in the same situation that they were, and I was attractive, I would have done that too. So, there's no way I would look down on them in any way.
What about the woman that you lived with that told you she had AIDS?
Yeah, I lived with this girl. Her name was Nin. She was a real wild one. Had to leave 2 or 3 bars because she was fighting with other girls and stuff like this. And she'd get a bit leery when she'd had a lot to drink, And we were getting on great. And then all of a sudden, for about a week, she's been really nasty to me and really confrontational, She'd come in at 2 a.m. and she was really pissed, and she said, really bad things to me. And I sat her down and said, what's the matter, Nin? Why have you gone like this? And she burst into tears and said, I just found out I'm HIV positive. And I've been sleeping with her for the best part of 3 months, never wore any protection, ever. And I'm like, that's not nice. So I didn't see her anymore. I went and got checked, and I was all right. And I thought,
what happened to her?
Don't know. I would imagine she went back home. And
what year was this?
93, 92.
Wow. I mean, you've seen a lot of changes in the nightlife scene and stuff like that from the 90s to now. What would you say are some of the biggest differences that you've seen?
Well, obviously I don't do it now, so I don't know. But one thing I do know is it seems to be all online now. So you'll get a guy, rather than go down the bar, bar find the girl out, they'll go on Tinder, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say a lot of them go on there and they pick one and it's a few messages, what's it going to cost me and where do we meet, and away you go. I would say that's the big difference. Far more working girls are freelance now than they used to, because they can, I guess. I remember there was one, this was just after I met my wife, and my wife was at my place, and this girl wanted to come. She was a rowdy one, So I said to her, look, the girl that's in my room right now, she's a Pattaya Muay Thai champion, 3 years running. Well, I won't come today then, but you tell her if I ever see her, blah, 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 blah. I kind of saved the day. And I was a teacher at a school in Lapprow, and one of our teachers went missing. Good-looking young man, about 24. And I was asked if I could go investigate. So I went down to the area where the bar was, where he'd been with her. And then somebody told me, oh, they saw him over there. And I went to this place, and I'm eating noodles, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I hear this, help, Paul. And I looked up, and there he is, looking at me down from the balcony with just a towel around his waist, because the lady boy he'd gone with had fell in love with him so much. She took all his clothes and his passport, and he'd already been there something like 2 days, and she was out getting food, you know. So of course she came back, and I said to her, no, you know, you can't do this. You give him his clothes back, give him his passport back, or you'll go to jail. You know, simple as that. And well, when I took him back to where he lived, he's like, holy fuck. I thought she was joking when she said, you know, I want you to stay with me forever. But that was her plan.
Yeah, and that's sexual harassment / kidnapping or whatever. She'd do time for that in Ireland. Anything else that we can talk about related to your 7-year rampage? Like, how did you finish? Like, what got you? You kind of mentioned before there was a guy that saved your life at the end of it, yeah?
Yes. I went back to England for a period of 12 months, worked hard, got money together, and came back. Not long after I came back, I met my wife. So yeah, I went through a dark period for about 3 months before I tried to take I didn't try to take my own life, I had a plan. I was living on the 9th floor in this apartment building in Rangnam, and I started doodling on the walls. I couldn't hold my job down, and things were getting bad. And I sat there, I went to the shop, I bought a big bottle of Hong Tong, Sang Tip it was then, a big bottle of Coke and a few bags of ice, and I sat there and I said, when I finish that drink, I'm going to jump. And this is crazy, right? I even decided that to be absolutely sure, I didn't want to be alive when I hit the ground, so I ripped up 2 bed sheets into strips that thick, yeah? And tied them all in a knot so that they would go down about 20 feet, yeah, with a noose around the end. And then I tied the other end to the water pipes on the balcony, because I figured that at that kind of drop, it would just take my head off my shoulders. Well, wouldn't be very nice for the people who found it, but I figured it would be the quickest way to do it. And I got to about, I don't know, that much left, and my friend Rajesh arrived. Talked me out of it. Started I was 2 years out on my visa, overstay. Wasn't such a big thing then though. And my passport had expired. So unbeknown to me, he contacted my mother, and she contacted my father. My father sent the money out to get me back. And I didn't want to take it. I said no a couple of times, but in the end I realized, oh, I'm going to die if I stay here. I'm just going to die, you know. So I went back, did the right thing, got myself together, worked hard for about a year, saved all my money, came back, and luckily for me, I met my wife not long after coming back.
What about alcohol now? Do you drink alcohol these days?
My snooker partner makes wine. Very good wine it is too. So I might have the odd glass of wine before I go to bed, but no beer now, no spirits. I couldn't deal with the hangovers, Pete. It got that bad.
Oh, I'd say you were getting one hell of a hangover.
Yeah. And I've been one of these guys that I've said this many times. I came from a drinking culture. You know, and for me, life couldn't be fun unless I'm drunk. And that just went on and on and on and on and on. And discovering Kratom helped get me off alcohol.
Can you describe to people what this is, just because most people probably never tried this before.
Kratom is a tree that grows naturally in Malaysia, Thailand, and I think in Indonesia too. It's a big tree, and you boil the leaves, add 3 litres of water, boil the leaves, strain it all, add some Coca-Cola and a little bit of cough medicine, and that gives you the drink right there.
It's a stimulant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a stimulant. It gives you focus, it gives you energy.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you the shakiness of coffee.
And I put that down to getting me off alcohol. That got me off alcohol. I stopped drinking in the mornings, because I used to drink alone, and I drink in the mornings, I drink at any time. Hardened drinker, me.
Were you able to go to work?
My wife told me that it's going to kill me if I don't stop. Didn't make any difference to me.
Could you work while drinking?
Well, I was a writer by then. I was a writer.
So it's easy just to sit down on your computer?
Well, no, it wasn't easy, because after a couple of hours, if I've drank half a bottle of whiskey, then the writing goes out the window. Whereas with Kratom, I can do it 10 hours,
And so, like, your typical day now for you, describe that, because it sounds like it's much different than what it was back in the 90s.
Yeah, I have what I call my special place, Pete. When I say special place, I don't mean location as in geographical. I mean a special place in my mind. Yeah. And I'll do this 3 times a day. I'll squat on my porch with a cigarette. Early in the morning it will be a coffee, but otherwise it will be this. And I will just sit there and wonder about the beauty of everything around me. I'll see the cat walking towards me, and I think, my God, nature is so precise. That cat is an apex predator, and I'm full of gratitude for having such a wonderful life that I have, and everything is great. And I do that 3 or 4 times a day. And I've trained my mind so that I never think about bad stuff. And
I mean, if a negative thought comes into your head,
It wouldn't.
No?
No, yeah, but I might see something negative or hear about something negative, and I just won't let it get to me.
Well, what about the comments from our videos? Like, you've got lots of positive comments, but there's a million views on one of the videos, and the comments on that one, it's people that never even been to Thailand and stuff like that, and they write horrible stuff about
calling
you.
me a toothless drug addict and this, that, and everything else. I'm absolutely fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. I care not 1 iota what another human being thinks about me. And I have to tell you, that's truly liberating to get to that point. And I think you would agree with me that going on YouTube with no teeth is proof I have no ego. Would you do that?
No, probably not.
Most people wouldn't.
No. There was one, when we did the interview, it was 1 tooth. I
think when we did the first one, I actually had 3. I had 2 at the back and 1 up there, and the 2 at the back went, and then finally the last one went. And as I said earlier in one of the other interviews, please don't feel sorry for me. Please don't think I don't have false teeth because I can't afford them. Please don't think it bothers me in any way at all, because it doesn't. There's nothing in my life has changed except I can't eat French bread. And that bothers me sometimes, but I'll eat the other type of bread with a soft crust, and I can't really eat a steak too well, but everything else, I'm up for it, I can eat it. And don't have to brush my teeth anymore, which is wonderful. No teeth to brush. Actually, I have 9 teeth at home in a little glass jar.
You kept them?
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm insane. Why the hell have you got those teeth in that jar? It looks awful. From over the years, and I said to her, that tooth's been all over the world with me, and you want me to throw it away? There's no way, I can't throw it away, so I just keep it. I've got 9 in a jar.
Fascinating. So let's talk about your memories now. You're 69, soon to be 70. You've lived through a lot of changes in your life. I'm sure there's some people watching this now that are similar age to, maybe older and stuff like that. So I'm always interested in hearing older people's stories. I do plan to actually interview my mother at some point. Just capture that, because you know, an interview like that about your life story lives on forever, right?
Yeah.
So you're born 1956. You told me, you said you can remember tell us about stories of your father. What you went into a pub, you can remember the
One of
smell
my
it.
earliest memories was my dad taking me and my mum, my mother, to a shop on the high street in Windsor. And there were crowds of people round the window, and I thought, what's going on there? And he said, come and look, come and look. And managed to get a view, and it's a colour TV. And I'm like, wow, because I mean, I hadn't seen a colour TV, nobody had, you know. This would have been what, I don't know, 1964, 1963, or something like that. And that was amazing. I watched the moon landings, which I don't think happened, by the way, but there you go, that's another story, yeah. I remember laying on the floor like this, watching England play West Germany in 1966, and just before the final whistle, Jeff Hurst ran down the left-hand wing and walloped a shot into the top-hand corner of the net, 4-2, and we won the World Cup. And the pubs were open for days after that.
What was the famous quote by the commentator? Wasn't there a famous quote? Maybe I'm thinking of a different goal. But yeah, you got to see England win the '66 World Cup.
Yeah, I was 10 then. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah, life was different then. But as I say, I had a really good childhood, no complaints. I think I was a bit of a handful. Not in terms of being naughty, but I was the kind of kid that would think, I wonder what would happen if I did that.
Yeah, say you're a wild kid.
And I'd experiment and do things, you know. I'd go in my dad's garage in his shed, and I'd get all these liquids and I'd put them all together. You know, I wonder what would happen if I lit that, boom, you know, stuff like that. I was a handful, I think.
Up until the point you were 16, and at 16 then your parents divorced and you were on your own. So you were fending for yourself at 16.
I had 6 months of living with my father's new partner. She had 2 boys who were younger than me, and they didn't like me. I totally understand that. I totally get that. And I didn't like them, and I blamed my mother for the split and all this. And my father, in the end, I think he was told, either I go or we both go. So he said to me that I'm going to find a bedsit for you nearby, and we'll get you a job. So I worked in a factory, and I was hanging around with guys who were 21, 22 from that age.
So you kind of got into the drinking culture then, and you'd have to at that age.
Yeah. And that was all right for a while. Then I started to look around me and thought, well, okay. You know, one thing I was aware of at an early age was, one day I'll get old and I'll die. You know, I knew that by that age. That thought came into my head a lot. So I thought to myself, well, I've only got one shot at it. I want to have a good life. I want to see things. I want to do things. And from how it looked to me, how my life would be if I was in England like that, would be something along the lines of, I'll have lots of girlfriends and eventually I'll get one pregnant, you know, I'll do the right thing and we'll get married and we'll buy a house, you know, and we'll start and get a car, and, you know, I'll work for the next 45 years until I'm old enough to get my pension, and then I'll just wait until I die. And I thought, no, fucking no. I was adamant. So that gave me the travel thing, you know.
How about now though? Like, because you've travelled extensively, right, throughout the world.
I hate going anywhere now.
Yeah, you're total opposite now. You describe yourself as a hermit now.
Yeah, during the lockdowns, the COVID lockdown, I spent 3 years at home. I don't think I went anywhere, and it never bothered me at all, because I was into that at that time in my life, being a hermit. You know, exploring myself, the inner journey, I called it. And I learned a lot through that time. I am emotionally detached from everyone and everything. I'm emotionally detached from my children, from my wife.
Tell the story about your dog dying and that emotional
My 17-year, I had a street dog for 17 years, and she was really old now, and I'm starting to think about having to put her down, you know. Partially blind, all her skin was bad. And she was out the front of the house one day, and I suddenly heard this yelp. And one of the neighbours had a 4x4 truck, and we had 2 dogs, and she'd seen that one dog had got out of the way, one dog was in front of the car, and so she crawled forward and ran over the head of my old dog, and she was in hysterics. I get out there, she's in hysterics. The dog's laying there on the floor like that. There's blood oozing out everywhere. Her kids are crying because they're on the way to school. So I said to her, just don't worry about it. Back up, get in the car and go off, and we'll talk about it later. And my wife came out and we put the dog in a blanket and I held her in my arms and she just went like that in front of me. And I didn't have a blip of emotion. And I thought, I'm so fucking proud of that. I've done it.
Did that not surprise you, Paul? Your dog just died right in front of you.
Yeah, it did surprise me. But it's what I was trying to do, be emotionally attached. And let me say one thing. Let me be absolutely clear about this. Being emotionally detached does not mean I don't care. I would do anything for any of my family or anyone else for that matter, even if it meant risking my own life. Of course, I'm always there for them. I just don't get emotional about it. So being emotionally detached doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you can separate the emotion from doing whatever is needed to be done. Yeah, and that took me 10 years, but I'm there now. I'm not attached to any possessions, and I'm not attached to any people. Or my dogs. I'm not emotionally attached to them at all.
But are we not supposed to be attached? Like we're humans. Like, you know, you're attached to your loved one, your wife. Like if something happened to your wife, how would you feel about that? You know?
Well, there's the $64,000 question. You see, how would I feel about it? I wouldn't be over the moon, but I know that everybody's got to die at some point, and I'd rather have been me than her, because I'm 7-8 years older than her. But no, there'd be no feeling. There'd be no feeling if one of my sons got killed. There'd be no feeling. I'd just be like...
How old is your wife?
61, 62. Yeah, she gets her old age pension now, 500 baht a month.
That's crazy, isn't it? Or 500 baht a month.
I don't get a pension. I gave that right up when I started traveling, when I was very young.
Yeah, you haven't paid in.
I haven't paid in, so of course I don't expect to get out. But I never ever was relying on my pension for my life.
But does that not worry you financially, you know, as you're in a foreign country? No?
I don't worry about anything, Pete. You know why? Because everything has always turned out okay for me. And why should the next thing be any different? I'm proud to say I've cured my wife of worrying. She doesn't worry about a thing now, because it's rubbed off on her, you know. What's the point of worrying about it, you know? Yeah, but this might happen, let it happen. But what are you going to do if you haven't got that? Or you haven't got that, or deal with it when it arrives. I have no health insurance, none whatsoever.
Do you get sick often?
No. No, very healthy person. I love my life. You know, it might be crazy. Some people would measure me by assets. Yeah, we have a little farm in Kukan, you know, I don't know, 16 rai of land and a house. But outside of that, I got nothing. And people would say, he's got nothing, he's got no insurance. How could he be happy? I'm absolutely blissful all the time. And I don't own much, because it's not important to me.
Can I ask, like, typically on what would you spend? What would be your budget for a month living in Thailand? What are you living on?
35,000 a month. I think it costs us to live.
You and your wife.
My youngest son works as a taxi driver at the airport. He probably brings in 35. My eldest son runs my blogging business. I don't do any of that. I taught him how to do all that. I'm a writer now. So he makes his own money, he saves his own money up, and yeah, we don't have a great deal of money. I could probably amass 250,000 baht if I really, really had to, but that's it. Not worried about that at all. No.
How about your sons? Is that kind of your way of life rubbed off on them?
I think it might have, because neither of them want any children, because they the way they see it, the state of the world at the moment, they wouldn't want to bring a child into this world. I've taught them the truth. My kids know all about 9/11. They know all about the COVID scam. They know what's going on in the world with the globalists. I've never sugarcoated that. But they're not like me. They're not risk takers. They're just not like me.
Have they been to England?
Yes, when they were young. I think Jerry would have been 10, Tom would have been 6, 7, no, 8. Sorry, there's 2 years difference. Yeah, they've been to England once. Yeah, they liked it. Thought it was a bit cold, but I've been so lucky, you know. I mean, just looking at my adolescent years, I can understand how traumatic it's going to be for the parents. But my 2 sons have never given me any hassle about anything. As soon as I knew they'd smoked weed, I got them together and I taught them all about all the drugs I know. This one, stay away from that. Acid, LSD, mushrooms, yeah, everybody should try that at least once in their life. So I gave them the green light to try that.
What was the no? Don't try this one.
No heroin, no methamphetamine. I said, they're the 2 you've got to stay away from. Nothing wrong with mushrooms or any kind of psychedelic. In fact, I encouraged it, and they've both done mushroom trips, and they both said, yeah, we agree with you, Dad. It's something everybody should do at least once in their life. I mean, they're both grown up now, 30 and 28, and we all live in the same house, you know.
Do they have girlfriends?
Yeah, they have girlfriends. And I could never have imagined me allowing my children to live at home until they're 30. I would have imagined me at 18 saying, well, get the fuck out there, you know, there it is. There's the world, boy. Go for it. But because I got kicked out of my home when I was young, 16 and a half, I vowed never to ever to say to my children, you can't stay here. Because I know what it feels like when you have to get out, you know. And we get on great. The whole family gets on great. I think they had one disagreement, the sons, that came to blows, but I soon put a stop to that.
What was that about?
Using other people's stuff.
So just before we wrap it up, Paul, you got in contact with me again. You just said, you know, let's do some more videos, whatever,
yeah.
And we've done them. But the thing was like, we've covered it already in the previous video, but I'll just say it again. You feel like you don't have long left.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to live that much longer. I don't know.
So why did you want to do these interviews with me? We've done so many over the last 3 years.
I don't know, get my story out there.
Do you know it's exactly 3 years?
Really?
That it was after Songkran 2022 where I did the first interview with you.
Okay.
That's gone very, very fast. And I remember when you called me. It's kind of like fate. I was in Koh Samui and I missed the call. You sent me an email and then you called me and I missed the call.
Right.
And
yeah, no, I was watching one of your videos and I thought, hey, nice young guy, good interviewer, and I'm listening to your guests, and I think one guy said something about a wild story he'd had, and I thought, oh, I got some wild stories I could tell. And so I don't know why I chose you, but I did. Because I'd never ever had a plan to do anything like that. By this time, 3 years ago, I'm married and at home, and I'm a hermit. I had no desire to meet anybody or get into any social circles. Right off the cuff, I just had a feeling that I should talk to you. It'd be okay to talk to you. And I've left a record of my little few years on this planet. Oh, you've left a
big record.
And that's good for me. And I'm really, really good with passing as well. With dying. I'm really good. I just don't want it to be painful, and I'm sure none of us want it to be painful, but I won't worry about it because everything has worked out so far, and why should it end now? Why should it not be the same always? And so I'm a worry-free person. A worry-free person with no ego. I make no judgments on anybody. I'm emotionally detached, and I can tell you it's beautiful to be in the space I'm in. It's beautiful.
Right, we'll leave it on that one, Paul. Thanks very much for everything. I always say this, but in case there isn't another one.
Right, yeah,
it's been an
I don't know.
Pleasure interviewing you.
If I could have $100 for every time I've said to you, that's it now, I won't be doing any more, I could probably buy myself a nice car.
Yeah, well, there's
never
always
say never,
stuff to do. We can do more stuff down the line. But I'm running out of content for you, Paul. I'm trying to think of stuff that we're like, oh, what other angles have we not covered?
My book's probably going to be coming out somewhere around about August, September time, and I really do think that I am going to be able to change people's lives in as much as they won't fear death anymore.
Right. Well, leave a link to the books down below in the comment section.
Yeah.
All right.
Great to see you again, and you know, we'll probably be doing this in 15 years, and I'll be sitting there going, "Oh, this is the last time I'm going to do this."
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely sweating here. It's beautiful. If you could just picture the scene. Let's mention this spot, actually, because...
yeah, it's a fishing park.
Yeah, where are we there? Where are we in Bangkok?
We're in between Minbury and Nong Jok. We're halfway between Minbury and Nong Jok. It's predominantly a Muslim area, but all the people are wonderful. It's very green here. And this is a nice fishing park that I used to fish here, but I don't fish anymore. My wife's put a stop to that. When I say my wife's put a stop to it, she sat me down one day and said, "Look, I know you don't kill these fish. I know you release them, but they get an hour of trauma. So is it okay for me to tie you to the back of a pickup and drive you around to give you a few bumps and bruises, but I'll let you go, it'll be all right. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "No." She said, "Well, think about the trauma that you're giving that fish." And I thought, you know, she's right. So I stopped fishing. And now I try not to hurt any animal. I won't even kill a mosquito, I'll flick it away. I love everyone and I love everything. And that seems to work. The universe seems to be there for me whenever I need it, Pete. And that's proof to me that my attitude is how it should be. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you're all good, and check out Paul's books. Cheers.